This week was the bi-monthly Summerton Whisky Club delivery, and I'm here to tell you all about it. Welcome back, Dram Fam, to the Whisky Diary. As I said in the intro, this month was a Summerton Whisky Club month. I've spoken about them before. It's 50 quid every 2 months and you get a bottle. It's usually something weird, something different, usually like a distillery exclusive that's been bottled specifically for the Whisky Club. Thus far, I've had a very positive experience with it. I pay for my membership. I'm not paid to tell you this. It's just something I subscribe to. I really like it, and this month's bottle is no exception. It is absolutely stunning. So I'm just going to get right into it, and then I'll tell you a bit more about it. This is a 15-year-old Girvan grain whisky that's been bottled by the Whisky Baron specifically for the Summerton Whisky Club. So as I say, this is a single grain whisky. It has been bottled at 51.4%. It is all natural colour, unchill filtered. It comes in a 70 centilitre bottle. It was originally in a bourbon refill cask and it's been finished in a port cask, which is very interesting indeed. And as it was a Summerton Whisky Club bottle, it is £50 and you get a bottle every 2 months. So this bottle fundamentally cost me 50 quid. Now what's really interesting about this is that it's a single grain. A lot of people, I think, see grain whisky as a cheaper alternative to single malt. I think a lot of people synonymise grain whisky with being cheap crap, essentially. It's quite often used to bulk out cheap blends. I think it's quite often used as more of a utility spirit. You know, it's very rare that kind of you see single grains placed on a pedestal. They're usually incorporated into other things. Because of that, a lot of the time grain whisky, or why I think a lot of grain whisky gets a bad rap, is because for the most part, because it's being used as this kind of utility spirit, it doesn't get the pick of the good casks. So you kind of find it that it's been left in these refill bourbon casks for 3 years just to get it over the line, and then it can be shipped out to blends. But I have got so many fantastic grain whiskies where good wood management, great cask selection, and just the right amount of time has yielded an incredibly delicious whiskey. And this is one of those. Now, usually with a grain whisky, I'll kind of aim for about the 20-year mark. Generally for me, that's where I've found grains kind of really come into their own. Any younger than that, they can come across a bit spirity, sometimes a bit kind of gin-like, just a bit too raw spirit flavour. Whereas when you get them in that cask, you get them over that 20-year mark, they really tend to come into their own and they really start to take on some of that cask flavour. But in instances like this, I don't know, maybe you just find a unicorn cask or whatever, and you actually produce one that's got absolutely barrels of flavour. So let's talk about the liquid. So this particular whiskey was selected by Dan, who's the guy who kind of runs the Summerton Club. He selected this from one of 13 samples, and I believe it was under his instruction that it was re-racked into the port cask, which means it's taken on this wonderful kind of pink, kind of peach hue in the glass, which is wonderful. So on the nose, initially on the nose, very bright and sweet, very, very caramel, honey, vanilla notes coming through. A wonderful hint of like fresh red apple, but underpinning all of that, there's like a creamy peanut butter note, like a peanut brittle almost. It smells absolutely wonderful. Caramel, peanuts, sweetness. On the palate, initially comes across as oily, but like thin oily, like mineral oil, very mouth coating. Right away, that candy-like sweetness completely coats your mouth. If you were to make whiskey candy, this is what it would taste like. Some of those peanut notes really start to come forward now. Some really nice buttercream notes, like cakey, vanilla-y buttercream. And some wonderful floral honey, like a really nice Manuka honey or something like that. Kind of, again, it's very mouth coating to drink. On the finish, loads of candy-like sweetness, honey, maybe a little bit of green tea and chocolate there. But one thing with this whiskey that carries it all the way from nose to palate to finish is that wonderful peanutty, candy, caramel-like sweetness. For me, this is absolutely stunning. This is wonderful. It's picked up so much flavour from those casks. A lot of grains can yield really good value for money. You know, you can pick things up with a really good age statement on them. Yeah, some can be a bit hit or miss, but keep an eye out for reviews like this, because a lot of the time they don't go for a huge amount of money, and you can find some absolutely stunning, super accessible, super easy drinking whiskies. Like, I literally can't put this down. Every time I look at my shelf, it grabs me. It's like that candy sweetness is almost addictive. Okay, yeah, it can get a bit much. It's not something I'd sit here and session all night long. But, you know, if you're not looking for something that's really tough that you've got to work through, this is one to go for. I'd say it's not really a complaint, but one of the only things that I find with a lot of grain whiskies is they don't usually have a huge amount of evolution. It's not like with, you know, some of the single malts. You can get a very different nose, palate and finish, and it will progress as you go through. With these, I tend to find these grain whiskies are very consistent from start to finish. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on what you're looking for a whiskey. That's why for me this is an easy drinking, accessible go-to whiskey. I would highly recommend checking out the Summerton Club. Like I say, it's relatively affordable. £25 a month on average is really good, and I tend to get quite excited about these bottles when I know it. When I remember it's a Summerton month. It's just long enough that I can kind of forget. And then I get my delivery notification saying it's on the way, and everyone gets super excited, man. So yeah, check them out. Drop a link down to them below, and see if you can scoop some of this. It's absolutely fantastic if you're looking for something easy drinking and accessible. But anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you've liked this video, please do drop a like down below, and if you'd like to support the channel, please do consider subscribing. Let me know down in the comments if you've tried any grain whiskies, if there's any grain whiskies that you're a big fan of, and if maybe you are considering trying out some grain whiskies after seeing this video. And on that note, Sláinte mhath.